Okay, so today we are starting with our new chapter number 4, that is pavement design. Okay, we are starting our new chapter number 4, that is pavement design. In this chapter, we have to cover what are the different types of pavements are there, what are the design parameters that are considered while design. We are designing the pavement. What are the different parameters we need to check for? Then we need to also understand the axle load means what is meant by wheel loads, what is meant by the tire pressure, how to calculate, what is the standard ranges of the tire pressure, what is how it is useful when we are designing the pavement. Then also we have to see the equivalent single wheel load means what, then the equivalent wheel load means what, then the IRC method for the flexible pavement design, then the IRC method for the rigid pavement design. Then also we have to see what are the various types of the joints in the rigid pavement, then what are the temperature stresses they generated into the rigid pavements, what are the effects of that. Okay, so all these contents that we need to study or understand in this chapter. Okay, so we will start. So what is the highway pavement? Sorry, what is the pavement and why it is necessary? Before starting that, we should understand what is the role of the pavement or the roads into the whenever we are dealing with the development of the country. Okay, all the development of the country, it is depends on the roads that are available in your country. Okay, it is directly affected on the development of the country. So the connectivity of the road to the various places, because uh, as we know, to development the economy of the country, we need to connect the various places, because in the one area there are certain developments, then in other area there are certain developments, there are some certain markets in the, some area, there are any other market in the some area, there are industrialization in area, in different areas. Okay, so we need to connect all such areas with the roads. Okay, then and then only the development of the country will starts. Okay, so to connect this all type of the roads or all type of the industries areas in the sense of development of the country, we need to build the highways. Okay, so in India there are largest road network. There is a largest road network, about 3 million kilometer roads are present in our India. For that purpose, the management of the road, then the administration, road in India are generally categorized as the national highways, state highways, major district road, other district road, and village roads. Okay, so these are the general types that we are considering whenever we are dealing with the roads. Also, we introduce one that is the highway, expressway. Okay. Also, we know the another one that is the expressway. Okay. So these are the generally categorized 5 types of the highways. That is, first one is the national highway. Second is the state highway, major district road, other district road, and village road. Also, we should know the expressway. Okay, also the roads are categorized as a expressway as well. So what is these roads and what are the purposes to build these roads? Okay, and the expressways and the national highways are mainly designed or built for connecting the major cities. It means we can say capitals of different states. Okay, major cities from the states that are connected by using the expressways on the national highways. We can say so capitals of the states are mainly connected by the national highways and the expressways. Then the state highways, generally these are the highways which connects the capitals of a state with the districts of that particular state. Okay, the capital area with the district means what? The major cities into that state. That major cities into that states are connected by using the state highways. Then the major district roads, other district road connects the district level places with the taluka level places. Okay, district level places connected with the taluka level places, and the village roads are connecting the village to village. Village to village roads are connected by using the village roads. Okay, so these are the various types of the roads where they are used. And we should know the basic difference between the expressway and the national highway. Okay, what is the national highway? It is the highway which is connecting the major cities of the different states. May we can say that connecting the capitals of the district, different states. Expressway also deals with the same advantage, but what is the difference between these two is the access point. Access point means what? In the expressway, there is a very less access is provided, and in national highway, there is a more access is provided. Means less access and more access means what? In the national highway, we are providing the number of roads which meets the national highway. Okay. Suppose means what? In the national highway, there are certain junctions we provide. Okay, speed breakers we provide, signals we provide, but in the expressway there are less number of junctions. We can say minute level of junctions are provided in the expressway. There is no any junction roads in the expressways. Okay, so that we can say the accessibility of the expressway is very less. It is negligible, and the accessibility of the national highway is more as compared to the expressways. Okay, so this is the basic difference between these two. In the expressway, accessibility is not provided that much, and in the national highways, accessibility is provided. Means what? The approaching roads are provided to the national highways, but in the expressway, they will not provide the approach roads. They will not provide any junctions, etc. Okay. So these are the basic categories of the roads that are provided in over India. That is then the what is meant by pavement? Pavement is nothing but the multiple layers that we are providing with the different types of the materials. Okay, surface course, then the binder course, base course, sub base course, and subgrade course in the flexible, and in the rigid, surface course, base course, and the subgrade. Likewise, the different multi-layer system, it distributes the vertical, whatever the load it is coming from the vehicle, that load is transferred to the base, that is subgrade soil. Okay, so this is the pavement. Pavement is what? It is the multi-layer system which is provided to distribute the vertical load to the larger area. Means what? To the soil. Okay, so this is the purpose of providing the pavement. Whatever the loads that is coming from the tires of the vehicle, that load should be distributed to the larger area of the soil. As you can see here, this much only the contact of wheel will be there. So this pressure or the load will be distributed to the larger area. The red dotted line shows the pressure distribution. Okay, pressure distribution shows the by the red lines. Also, we can say highway pavement is the structure consisting of superimposed layers of the selected and the processed material whose primary function is to distribute the applied vehicle load to the subgrade. This is also one of the alternative definition of the pavement. That is what? This is the superimposed layers of the selected processed material. Means what? Bitumen will be there, aggregates will be there, soil will be there. Okay, this material we are using, and what we say, what we can say here, the processed material. Processed materials means what? We are selecting the different, the good quality of material only. Now, how we can say this material is good quality? We have to do certain processes. So this processed material, which is a good quantity or good quality, that we are using in the pyramids. Also, it can be defined as the structure which separates the tires of a vehicle from the underlying foundation. Means what? The foundation and tire is separated by the some layers. That layers are called as pyramid. Another definition. The pyramid is the upper part of the roadway, airport, or the parking area structure. Okay, what is pyramid? It is the upper part of the roadway system. We can say airports. We can also provide on parking areas. Okay, it includes the all layers resting on the original grounds. Okay, in the on the original ground means what? Without a disturbed soil. Undisturbed, we can say undisturbed soil will be there. On that soil, subgrade will be there. We compact that subgrade and we provide the number of layers on that subgrade. Okay, so it includes the layers resting on the original ground or original undisturbed soil. Then what are the functions of the pyramid? So there are different functions. The first is the reduce and distribute the traffic loading so as not to damage the circuit. This is the first and most important function of the pyramid is whatever the load that is coming with from the tires of the vehicle, that load, it is on the smaller area, because whatever the load is coming by the tire, it is applied on the small area. Whatever the tire contact will be there with the roads, on that much area only load will be applied, and that load is converted into the larger area or conveyed to the larger area. This is the function of pyramid. Provide the vehicle access between the 2 points under all weather conditions. Okay, in whatever will be the weather condition, it should provide the access to pass the vehicles. It may be summer, rainy season will be there, monsoon season will be there. It should provide the very good access to travel the vehicles. Provide safe, smooth, and comfortable ride to the road users without undue delay and the excessive wear and tear. Okay, it provides the accessibility to the vehicle as well as it provides the way, it gives easy accessible ways to comfortable condition to the vehicle so that there will not be any delay to reach the destination. Also, the wear and tear should be find out whenever we are designing the pyramid. So wear and tear also, because the wear and tear of the tire will reduces the lifespan of the tire. So also we need to understand the wear and tear as well. Meet the environmental and the aesthetic requirements. Means what? It should be good enough in the aesthetic view also. It should give the protective view to the environment as well. Limited noise and air pollution. It should not provide the noise when the vehicle is traveling on the road. It should not provide that much noise. Also, it should not provide the air pollutions due to the dust, whatever it is on the pyramid. Then the reasonable economy should be there, the most important, because if the fund available is not there, we cannot construct the road. If there is a proper amount of the fund available, then and then only we can provide the highways. So we also think about the economic criteria. Then what are the requirements? Sufficient thickness to spread the loading to a pressure intensity tolerance by the subgrade. Okay, there should be the sufficient thickness of the pyramid so that the load whatever is coming, that should be provided largely on the subgrade. Okay, so that the intensity of the load will get reduced, because we know what is meant by stress or the pressure. It is the whatever the load coming on that area divided by area. Okay, load divided by area, that will use us the pressure or stress. As we are going on increasing the area, the pressure will goes on decreasing, as the area is in denominator. As the denominator increases, pressure will goes on decreasing. So it should be provided on the larger area. So that's why the thickness should be well enough. Sufficiently strong to carry imposed stress due to the traffic load. Okay, whatever the load coming on the highway, that much load should be bear by that pavement. We should have to provide such type of pavement, that is, that can take the load whatever coming by the traffic. Sufficient thickness to prevent the effect of the frost susceptible subgrade. If there is a frost action, then that much also load of the whatever of the frost will be there, that load also should be carried out by the pavement. Pavement material should be impervious to penetrate of the surface water, which could weaken the subgrade and subsequently pavement. Okay, means what? As we design the pavement in such a way that there is a camber on the road, so that what will happen? Whatever the water is coming on the road, that will be drained out. But suppose if there will be retention of the water on the road surface, the road pavement should be such that it should not allow the water to enter or penetrate into the subgrade. Okay, if it enters, it will harm to the subgrade. Okay, ultimately the carrying capacity affected by the penetration of water. So the pavement should not allow the penetration of water. Pavement surface should be a skid resistance also. This is very important, because proper skid resistance should be there on the pavement. Then this is the road history development in India. In the very much in the ancient area, the Roman roads were there long year before. Then the French developed some roads called as French roads. Then British will come into and they develop a different type of road called that the British road. And then in the modern area, we develop the flexible pavement and the concrete pavement. So this is the hierarchy of road development. You can write hierarchy of road development at the top. First, Roman roads. Please write down hierarchy. First, it is Roman. In the Roman era, Roman roads were there. They have developed the road system called as Roman roads. Then French has developed one road system called as French road. Then third is British government has developed a road system called as British roads. Then there will be the modern roads, which are flexible first, and then they develop the rigid, that is concrete road. Flexible roads and concrete roads. In the flexible and concrete road, the initial cost of the concrete road is approximately 20% higher than the flexible roads. That also you should know. Approximate cost of the concrete roads is 20% higher than the flexible pavement, but the maintenance cost of the flexible pavement, it is more than the concrete pavement. Maintenance for the concrete pavement is as compared to the flexible, it is less. Okay, and the life period also for the concrete road, 20 to 30 years life period will be there. And for the flexible road, according to the category of road, national highway, state highway, district road, village road, different lifespan is there. In the concrete roads, for lightweight traffic, 20 years minimum life period will be there. If the heavy traffic will be there, then for that 30 years minimum life period will be there. Approximately 20 to 30 years life period will be there for the rigid permits. Please write down this hierarchy. Okay, we will move forward. If you have written this. Then the classification of the pavement. The classification of the pavement by the function, it is airport pavement, highway and the freeway pavement, parking and street pavement. Okay. And then by the classification by the structure, rigid pavement, flexible pavement, composite pavement and gravel pavement. Okay. So these are the classifications of the pavement. First one is the depending on its function, whether it is provided for the airport, if it's provided for as a highway, then highway, and for if it is provided for the parking on the street, then the parking pavement. Then the classification by the structure, if it is rigid, made up of concrete, rigid pavement, made up of bituminous material, flexible pavement. If the combination of both it is provided, first layers are of the flexible pavement, then we have provided the rigid pavement, that is concrete layer. Then also it is called as combined pavement. Then gravel pavement, if the road is provided with the gravels. Then the main type of the pavement are the flexible and rigid pavements. The main types are the flexible and the rigid pavements. So this is very important comparison. All of you please see carefully. This is very important comparison between the flexible and rigid pavement. So first one is the design principle, the empirical method based on the load distribution characteristic of the component. It is designed as per the IS 137-2001. This is important. Please, all of you see here. This is very important. Which IS code is used for designing the flexible pavement? IRC 37-2001. And which IS code it is used for designing the rigid pavement? IRC 508-2002. This is very important. Then the material, the granular material is used in the flexible pavement. Different granular materials are there. In the rigid pavement, cement, concrete roads, plain or maybe reinforced sections are provided. Flexural strength, low or negligible flexible strength. Okay. For the flexible pavement, it is low flexural strength will be there, and in the rigid pavement there is a large or more flexible strength will be there, because it serves the whatever the loads it is coming from the upward side, all the load it is transferred to the subgrade by the slab action. So the flexural strength of the rigid will be more. Normal loading, elastic deformation in the flexible pavement, and in the rigid pavement there will be the beam or the cantilever action will be there to transfer the load. Means what? In the flexible pavement there will be the load transfer mechanism by gear to gear. Okay, with one point of material to material, the load will be transferred to the subgrade. But in the rigid pavement, whatever the load that is coming from the surface or pavement, that load is transferred by the slab action, because all the concrete member is act as a slab. Okay, slab action, we can say beam action, all the load can be transferred by that one D. Excessive loading, local depression. Okay, if there will be the low excessive loading will be there, then due to the excessive loading, there will be the local depression, and in the rigid pavement there will be the cracks due to the excessive loading. Okay, if there will be the excessive loading, there will, then we can say there will be the cracks on the rigid pavement. There are less chances of uh, cracks into the flexible pavement because it is very elastic material. Okay, as the binder material is bitumen, it is elastic material, so crack will be the less on the flexible pavement. Stress, transmit the vertical and the compressive stress to the lower layer. Tensile stress and temperature stresses are there. In the rigid pavement, there will be the temperature stresses more as compared to the flexible stresses in the flexible pavement. Design practice, constructed in the number of layers. Flexible pavement is constructed into the layers. Rigid pavement, it is layered only one layer. It may be plain concrete, it may be reinforced concrete if steel is provided into that. Temperature stresses are not produced in the flexible, but there will be the temperature stresses produced into the rigid pavement called as, I will write here, warping. Whatever the stresses induced due to the temperature are called as warping stresses into the rigid. There will not be any temperature stresses into the flexible. Force of friction is less in the flexible. It is friction force is very high. Opening to the traffic, road can be used within 24 hours. Flexible pavement we can use within 24 hours, but in the rigid pavement we need to go for the querying of road, because we need to go do the querying on the concrete roads. Okay, so after the querying only we can use the rigid pavement. So it takes at least 14 days. Surface rolling, surface is needed. Rolling of the surface is not here because it is concrete layer. It is well enough rolled only because it is very rigid surface. So rolling is not needed into the rigid pavement, but rolling is required into the flexible pavement. Okay, so write down this table. This is very important table. Fix, there will be the MCQ on this table. Everyone, please write down this table. Very important table is there. Comparison between the flexible and rigid pavement. All of you, please write down this table. Okay, we will move forward. So this is the very important comparison. I said you should remember this. Okay. So we will see. We have seen the flexible and rigid pavement comparison. In the flexible pavement, the deep foundation multi-layer construction is provided. Energy consumption due to the transportation material, increasing cost of the asphalt due to the high oil prices. Okay. In the rigid pavement, single layer is only there. Generally, large last longer will is there and may require the asphalt topping due to the noise and the competition. Okay, if we have to provide the noise free, then we can add one asphalt layer. Okay, so this is the general comparison between these two. Okay, then it is very important the pavement comparison. In the pavement comparison, the heavy vehicles consume the less fuel on the rigid pavement. This here, what is the comparison? We can say the heavy vehicles. If the heavy vehicles are there on the pavement, then it will consume less fuel on the rigid pavement. Okay. If there is the heavy vehicle traveling on the rigid pavement as well as on the flexible pavement, then on the rigid pavement it will consume less fuel as compared to the rigid flexible pavement. How? Now see here. See in the first figure, due to the tire pressure, you can see here, due to the tire pressure, there is a chances of huge on the road. Okay, due to the tire pressure, there will be the depression due to that tire. There is a chances of depression due to the tire on the road. But in the rigid pavement, as the pavement is very rigid, there will not be any depression due to the tire load. Okay, because first is the flexible pavement, so there will be the chances of depression into the road due to the heavy weight. But in the rigid pavement, such cases will not be there as the pavement is very rigid. So by this, we can say if there is the heavy vehicle traveling on the rigid pavement, it will consume less fuel as compared to the flexible pavement. Rigid pavements are more economical when considering the environmental and life cycle costing, because whatever the life cycle will be there, it is more for the rigid pavement. It will last for the long life as compared to the flexible pavement. Then the typical sections that we have seen into the last lecture or the last topic, the years into the flexible pavement and years into the rigid pavements. Then you can see here the surface course, base course, and the subgrade course, sub-base course. Then surface course, base course, and sub-base course. In the flexible pavement, how the depression will be there into the structure beneath the pavement, and how the reaction of the wheel is transferred into the rigid pavement. You can see here, please see, it is given here, how the reaction of the wheel is transferred into the flexible pavement and how the reaction of the wheel it is transferred into the rigid pavement. This reaction is transferred like a slab action or the beam action, you can say. But here directly punching effect, like the punching effect will be there. Okay, so more depression will be there into the flexible pavement. In the rigid pavement, the load whatever will be there, it is transferred by the slab action. You can observe by this figure. That only shown here. In the first figure, in the rigid pavement, whatever the load will be there, that is load distribution in the slab action will be there. in the flexible pavement, the grain to grain distribution of the load will be there. Okay, the load is distributed grain to grain, and in the rigid pavement there will be the slab action or beam action of the load will be there. That only shown here. Then what is meant by the rigid pavement? Rigid pavements are those which contain sufficient beam strength to be able to bridge over the localized subgrade failure and the area of the adequate support. Means what? In the rigid pavement, it provides a very strong strength, or we can say beam strength. It is very high into the rigid pavement as compared to the flexible pavement. Whatever the load it is there, it is transferred through the beam action of the slab into the rigid pavement. Okay, whatever the load is coming on the pavement, that is transferred into the beneath the subgrade in the form of beam action of the slab. Then the rigid pavements are those which reduces the stress concentration and distribute the reduced stress uniformly under the slab. Okay, there will be the less stress concentration into the rigid pavement. How? You can see into the last figure. In this figure, you can see in the flexible pavement there is a less area, so there will be the more stress. By the figure you cannot see, but in the rigid pavement the uniformly load is distributed over the large area, so there will be the less stress will be there. In the rigid pavement, deflection is very small. Then the high flexural strength will be there in the rigid pavement. Then whatever the load is coming, that is transferred by the finite slab in the beam action. Then the continuous slabs are provided in the form of concrete plain layers into the rigid pavement. If the length of this slab is increased, then we need to provide the joints. If there is a longitudinal joints we need to provide, then maximum limit or maximum limit of the length of longitudinal one section will be there. It is 140 meter. Okay, means what? Up to the maximum 140 meter we can extend our pavement. Before that we need to provide the longitudinal joint. For the transfer joint, if the width of the pavement, if it is more than less 14 meter, then we need to provide the transfer joint. Okay. Rigid pavements, though it is costly in the initial investment, are cheap in the long run because of the low maintenance cost. The cost of construction of the single lane rigid pavement varies from 35 to 50 lakhs per kilometer into the plain areas. We can say the rigid pavement's initial cost is very high as compared to the flexible pavement. But in the other hand, whatever the life period will be there, it is more for the rigid pavement as compared to the flexible pavement. As well as the maintenance cost of the rigid pavement, it is less as compared to the flexible pavement. Only thing is what? The initial cost, it is 20% more than the flexible pavement. Okay. Rigid pavement have the deformation in the subgrade. It is not transferred to the subsequent layer. Design is based on the flexural strength or the slab action, having the high strength, flexural strength. No such a phenomenon of the gain-to-gain load transfer exists. How the low repairing cost, but completion cost is high. Lifespan is more as compared to the flexible pavement. That repeated points are there. Whatever the load it is coming on the pavement is transferred by the slab action. The life of the rigid pavement is more as compared to the flexible. The initial cost is also more. Maintenance is the less. Lifespan is more. Okay, as compared to the flexible pavement. And in the rigid pavement, the gain-to-gain load transfer will be not there. It is transferred by the beam action. The basic components of the concrete pavement, you can see here. At the top, there will be the concrete layer. Below that, the base layer will be there. Below that, the subgrade layer. Okay. The design thickness of concrete layer, it is shown here. Thickness. Then, if needed, the dowel bars are provided. See here. Dowel bars are provided here, and the tie bars are provided here. If the bars are provided in the longitudinal direction, means what? Along the road, it is called as dowel bars. If the bars are provided into the transverse direction, means what? Across the road, that are the tie bars. Okay. Dowel bars and tie bars. The function of these bars is to transfer the load or to hold the pavements into the one set point, to increase the connectivity. Okay, so such are the functions of these bars. Then we need to provide the transverse joint and longitudinal joint. Transverse joint means what? The joint which is into the transverse direction is what? Across the direction of traffic. This is transverse joint across the traffic, and longitudinal joint along the traffic. Longitudinal joint along the traffic. Across the traffic, transverse joint. For longitudinal joint, maximum length 140 meter, and for transverse, maximum length is 4.5 meter. Not a 40, it is 4.5 meter for the transverse joint. Means if the width will increase more than 4.5, we need to provide transverse joint. And for longitudinal joint, 140 is the maximum limit. Before that, we need to provide the longitudinal joint. This is also shown here, typical section of the rigid pavement. This is also might be asked for MCQ. They will give the one typical section, or they will give the hierarchy of the grades. Period, surface, base course, sub base, binder, then the subgrade. They will show the grades. They will ask whether it is the flexible or rigid pavement. Likewise, also question may be there. Then what are the factors that governs the design pavement? For designing the wheel loads, static load we should know contact pressure of the tire and the road. Then the load repetition, how it is there. Then also we need to know the thickness of pavement required, stress strain behavior under the load, moisture variation, design period, design commercial traffic value, composition of the commercial traffic in terms of the single, tandem, and tandem, axle load spectrum, tire pressure, lateral placement of the characteristic, pavement component material, and climatic factor. These are the several factors that we need to understand before we are designing the pavement. That are the requirements of for the designing the pavements. Okay, and what are these? We will see one by one. The first one is the axle load. Axle load means what? You might have heard the axle, which is there into the vehicle. Axle means what? Suppose there is a wheel which is connected by axle. So this is called a single axle, single wheel, single axle. Okay. If there are two wheels provided with the axle, double wheel, single axle. Okay. Likewise, if there is another axle provided, double wheel, double axle will be there. Okay. So this is called what? The axle. The total weight, whatever the vehicle, from the vehicle it is coming, it is go to the axle, then by the axle it is transferred to the wheels, and by the wheel it is transferred to the pavement. So what is the role of axle? to take whatever the load of the vehicle it is there, it is transferred to the wheel, and then wheel transfer the load to the pavement. Okay. Then what is wheel load? Whatever the load it is coming from the vehicle to the axle, that axle load will come on to the wheel. That wheel load is transferred to the pavement. Okay. So what depends on the how much load it is there, we will design for the single wheel or the double wheel axle. Okay, if the load is less, then we can go with the single axle. If the load is more, we should go for the double axle or double wheels. Okay, as load increases, number of wheel as well as number of axle will go on increasing. You might have seen if there is a very heavy loaded vehicle will be there, there are number of axle as well as number of wheels will be there. Okay, because he need to transfer, vehicle need to transfer the large load over the large area. Means what? Suppose if there are only two wheels and very much and more load is coming. Okay, so as the area of contact of a vehicle is less and the load is more, the pressure whatever or the stress whatever it is generated is more. Load by area, we know the pressure, or we can say stress. What is the pressure or stress? It is load by area. As area is less, the pressure will goes on increasing. But suppose if I increase the wheels, ultimately what will happen? Area increases. If I increases the axles, ultimately what will happen? Area increases. So as I increase the area, the pressure will goes on decreasing. Means what? Depending on the load that is carried by the vehicle, we will design for the single axle or double axle, single wheel or double wheel. Okay, so this is depend on the load carried by that vehicle. Okay, because if the load will be more, it need to be transferred by the more area. So we need to uh, minimize the stress. Then the contact pressure, the pressure between the tire and the road surface contact, that is known as contact pressure. And generally this is taken as the standard of 5 to 7 kg. 5 to 7 kg per centimeter square. For design, it is generally taken as 7 kg per centimeter square. Okay. So this is what the contact pressure that we need to assume whenever we are designing the wheels. Wheel. Then the road repetition, the factor governs that the type of axle repeated through the design life, how much replication of the single tandem. Single means what? Only one wheel is there. Tandem means what? Two wheels are there. Tandem means what? Three axles wheels are provided. Three axles will be there. Okay. The figures are also there. We will see there. So we need to understand the how much loads, and depending on that load replacer, we need to design the single or tandem or tridem axle. So that these factors are considered for the TDC and BUC. TDC means what? Top down tracking, and BUC means bottom up tracking. Okay. Whenever we are designing the top down tracking, we need to understand the load. Whenever also we are designing the bottom up tracking, we need to understand how much load it is coming from the wheel to the pavement. Then the static load on the wheel, this is the factor used to design the thickness slab, because the load of the axle is ultimately transferred to the wheels. Okay, whatever the load it is there, it is considered as a static load. When the wheel, this is the governing factor whenever we are designing the wheels. Axle loads characteristics, see here, though the legal limits in India, there are 10.2 tons for the single axle 19 ton for the double axle, and 24 tons for the tridom as three axles. Okay, this is the limit for the loads in India. This is very important. For a single axle, 10.2 tons. If there are two axles, 19 ton. If there are three axles, 24 tons limit will be there. But large number of axles operating on the national highway carries much heavier load than the legal limit. Okay, because we need to check the vehicles randomly whether they are uh, carrying how much loads. If there is, we need to check the legal limits of the loads to that particular vehicle. Data on the load spectrum of the commercial vehicle is required to estimate the representation of single tandem tridem axle in each direction expected during the design period. Depending on the load carried by that vehicle, we need to give the suggestion for the single tandem or the tridem axles. Then, whenever we are collecting the data, we should ensure that how much vehicle that we need to test. Okay, how much vehicles that we need to test whenever we are designing, whether it is single, double, or triple. So, whenever there are the commercial vehicles that are passing that road, if there are more than 6,000 vehicles per day, then we need to check at least 10% vehicles. We only discuss about the heavy vehicles. We need to check whether these vehicles are traveling with the whatever the limits are provided by the government. Okay, whether loads are there within the limit. So how much vehicle we need to check? If the vehicle, commercial vehicle passing on that road per day are more than 6,000, then we need to check at least 10% of vehicles. Okay, if the vehicles passing through that road are 3,000 to 6,000 vehicles per day, then we need to check at least 15% of the vehicles. And if the vehicle passing by that road are less than 3,000, then we need to take at least 20% vehicles. We need to check. We are dealing only with the heavy vehicles. That we need to check for the limit of the load transfer. Okay. Then and then only the cumulative vehicle per day study will be happen. Then, so this is the truck configuration: 2 axles, 5 axle, 3 axle, 4 axle. You can say in this figure. If you can also see in this figure, please draw these figures for the axle configuration. You should know how the axle configuration it is there. First one is the single axle with the single wheel. Second wheel is the single axle with the double wheel. Third is the tandem axle. Fourth one is the tridem axle. Okay. Draw this figure. Okay, then what is meant by the standard axle? What is the standard axle? When the single axle with the dual wheels carries the load of 10.2 tons, then it is called as standard axle. Are you getting what is meant by the standard axle? When there is a single axle carrying two wheels on the either side and it carries 10.2 tons of load, then that axle is called as standard axle. Okay, figure you can see here there are two wheels on the either side and the axle connecting two wheels. Then if there is a 10.2 tons of load it is there, then it is called as standard axle. And what is the design life? To achieve the design of a low life cycle cost and in the respect of the high social cost for the full length reconstruction. To design the life of the rigid pavement is generally recommended as 30 years. Okay. Within this lifespan, it is expected that no excessive rehabilitation is required under the normal circumstances. There will not be any rehabilitation to the road. It is required before 30 years. Okay. Means what? That road will serve its whatever the purpose it is there, it will serve for at least 30 years. The service life of the pavement structure can be sustained by the minor repair. It can use the minor repairing up to the 30 years, no problem at all. Up to its service life, it can give the minor repairing works. It can anticipate that the service life can be further extended up to the expiry of the original design life. Okay, the service life can be extended up to the whatever will be there after the its service life, design life, whatever it will be there. But it should at least satisfy the service lives. To achieve that service life, what we need to do? We need to go for the regular maintenance of the road. Okay, if there are the cracks, we need to maintain the crack well before. Then, if there are any other maintenance required on that road, we should give that maintenance as early as possible so that it's whatever the service life will be there, that service life should be achieved by that road. Okay, if we give the time to time maintenance, then ultimately the service life will be achieved automatically. Okay, so the most important thing is what? We should give the proper maintenance service to the road so that to achieve its service life or the whatever the life will be there after that road. Then the whatever what is meant by the commercial vehicle forecast. Okay, we need to forecast the vehicles, how much vehicles that are traveling on that particular type of the pavements. The definition of the commercial vehicle follows the one given in the annual traffic census published by the transport department, which includes the medium or the heavy goods vehicles and the bus. Other light vehicles, for example, motorcycle, private cars, public light bus are normally ignored as they increase the structural damage on the pavement is minimal. Okay, what are the vehicles that we need to consider whenever we are counting the commercial vehicles? Okay, in this we need to take the vehicle which gives the medium or the heavy weight. Okay, whatever the lightweight vehicles are there that we are not considering. For example, if there is the bicycle, rickshaws, the private cars are there. Okay, whatever the vehicles are there which gives the minimum load that are not considered here because they will give the very less structural damage to the pavement. But whatever the vehicles are there with the heavy loads that will give the more amount of structural damage. So that we need to consider into the commercial vehicle forecasting. The annual flow of the commercial vehicle at the time of road opening is obtained by the multiplying the daily flow by the 365 years days per year. Okay, whatever the average flow that we obtained per day, we need to multiply it by 365 so that we will get, yeah, we will get the commercial vehicle forecast for per year. Okay, the cumulative number of commercial vehicles using the road during its design are obtained by the summing of the annual traffic of each year, taking into the consideration of the predicted growth rate. Okay, then we need to accumulate the each year commercial vehicle traffic forecasting. Okay, each year traffic forecasting we need to go for the summation, and also with assuming the growth of the traffic. Then that will gives us the cumulative number of commercial vehicle forecasting. Then the forecast can be done with the reference of the world side traffic count data, the traffic census, or other available traffic studies, or and the planning data. So how to calculate the cumulative? The cumulative forecasting of the traffic, it is calculated by the formula C is equal to 365 into A. Please write down this formula. Write down this formula. Into 1 plus R raised to N minus 1 whole divided by small r. So by this formula, we can calculate the cumulative vehicle forecasting. Write down this formula for cumulative vehicle. Cumulative vehicle is equal to C is equal to 365 into A into 1 plus R raised to N minus 1 divided by R. Write down this formula. Okay. So by using this formula, we can calculate the cumulative vehicle. So the next term is the traffic consideration. Then what is the design lane? The lane carrying the maximum number of heavy commercial vehicle is termed as the design lane. Okay, please see here. What is the design lane? The lane which carries the maximum number of heavy vehicles. If you might have observed, whenever you are traveling on the highways, okay, national highways, etc., there are multiple lanes, and you can see heavy vehicles are traveling on the outermost lanes. Mostly what happens? Mostly the heavy vehicles are traveling along the outermost lanes. Okay, because that lane is derived for the low or slow moving vehicles. It is derived for slow moving vehicles. So that what will happen? The whatever the heavy vehicles are there that are traveling with that lane. Okay, so that lane which is uh, the which gives the maximum number of commercial vehicles, that lane is considered as a design lane because that lane carries the maximum number of heavy commercial vehicles. Okay, so that lane is termed as heavy lanes. Each lane of the two-way lane highway, the outer lane of the multi-lane highway is considered as a design lane because mostly what will happen, the heavy vehicles are travel with the outer lanes. Okay, so that are considered as a design lanes. The lateral placement criteria, it is recommended that 25% of the total two-way commercial traffic may be considered as the design traffic for the two-lane, two-way roads for the analysis of VOC. In the case of four lanes, divided by the 25% total traffic in the direction of predominant traffic may be considered for the design of a pavement for the bottom-up tracking for TDC, those vehicles with the single spacing, sorry, those vehicles with the spacing between the transverse line. Okay, whenever we are designing the road, how much the commercial vehicles should be taken as a heavy vehicle. So they have suggested that you should take at least 25% of the traffic. 25% of the whatever traffic will be there, two-way traffic, that much vehicles are considered as a heavy commercial vehicles. Instead of going for the calculation, we can easily assume 25% of traffic that is as a commercial vehicle. Then temperature consideration, also this is very important part whenever we are designing the rigid pavements. The temperature consideration that we should have to go for. The temperature difference between the top and the bottom fiber of the concrete pavement causes the concrete slab curl, giving the rise to the stress, and this is the function of solar radiation received by the pavement surface, wind velocity, latitude. As far as possible, actual temperature difference should be considered. In the absence of data code given, the maximum temperature difference means what? Suppose there is a road pavement. If there is a hot region will be there, then whatever the temperature it is there on the top surface of the road, it is not that the same temperature it is there beneath that rock. Okay, means below that layer there will be the another temperature T2, and on the top layer there will be the different temperature T1. So the due to this temperature difference between top layer and the bottom layer, what will happen? There will be the temperature stresses developing. Okay, so we also need to understand the how much temperature difference between these two layers is there. At the top, there is a different temperature. At the bottom, there will be the different condition of temperature. Okay, so we need to understand the difference between these two temperatures to understand the temperature effects. Then the concrete strength, the flexural strength, how does we calculate for the concrete? The flexural strength is required for the purpose of designing the, it is flexural strength taken as 90 days instead of 28 days for the initial depletion are very low, and it can be obtained by the multiplying factor. Okay, as we know the big concrete strength, in the concrete you might have learned the flexural strength is calculated by formula 0.7 under root FCK. FCK means what? Characteristic compressive strength. Okay, this is how we calculate the flexible strength. But here we have taken the multiplying factor for the factor of safety. It is 1.1. So by multiplying that, we will get the flexural strength for the road pavement. Okay. So for the road pavement, flexural strength, it is calculated by formula 1.1 into 0.7 under root FCK. FCK is nothing but characteristic compressive strength. And how much it is the modulus of elasticity and the Poisson's ratio? We should also know the modulus elasticity for the concrete as well as the Poisson's ratio for the concrete. We might have heard or we have gone through the number of problems for the steels, because we know the modulus of elasticity for the steel, stress by strain. For steel, we know the elasticity, but how much it is there for the concrete? It is 30 to 50 GPa. This is very important. E for concrete, that is modulus of elasticity for concrete, 30 to 50 GPa, generally taken as 30 GPa, gigapascal or 30,000 megapascal, 30 gigapascal or 30,000 megapascal. And mu is what? Poisson's ratio. How does we calculate the Poisson's ratio? Mu is equal to lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. Lateral strain by longitudinal strain. This is the formula for calculating Poisson's ratio. Okay. So we can calculate the Poisson's ratio. So as the stress goes on increasing, what will happen? The E, that is modulus of elasticity, goes on increasing. And when the strain is more, E is less. When the E is more, strain will be less, as strain and E are inversely proportional. Okay. And mu, if the strain is more, mu is more. I will write here C. When strain increases, mu also increases. Okay. When strain increases, the modulus of elasticity decreases. So when modulus of elasticity increases, mu will be decreases. Okay. So this is the relation between modulus of elasticity and the Poisson's ratio. When we goes on increasing the modulus of elasticity, ultimately what will happen? The mu, that is Poisson's ratio, goes on decreasing. Okay. Here they have given, I think, elastic modulus, that is E, increases with increase in the strength. As the strength goes on increasing, elasticity will goes on increasing, because stress is directly proportional to the elasticity. Poisson's ratio decreases, there will be the increase in modulus of elasticity. Okay, so these are inversely proportional. E is inversely proportional to the Poisson's ratio. Okay. E for concrete, 30,000 MPa or 30 gigapascal, mu it is 0.15. Generally it is 0.1 to 0.2. 0.15 is preferred. Then what is the coefficient of thermal expansion for the concrete? It is equal to, alpha is equal to 10 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree Celsius. Okay. 10 into 10 raised to minus 6. This is the coefficient of thermal expansion for the concrete. Then the fatigue behavior of the cement concrete. Due to the repeated application of the flexural stresses by the traffic load, progressive fatigue damages takes place in the cement concrete slab in the form of gradual development of the microcracks, especially when the ratio between the flexural stress and the flexural strength of the concrete is high. This ratio is termed as stress ratio, and the following relations is the given. What is meant by the fatigue behavior? Due to the fatigue behavior, cracks will be developed into the pavement. But we also should know what is meant by the fatigue. Fatigue means what? When we give the repetitive cyclic load on the any material. If we take any material, if you give the cyclic load repeatedly. Okay, if you do the cyclic load repeatedly, at one point it will get breaks. That is called as fatigue condition. Okay, you might have seen uh, the wires which are break like this. Okay, this is what the cyclic loading, repeatedly positive, negative, positive side, negative loads are given so that it will get breaks called as fatigue behavior. Okay, so in the pavement also, if load comes, it will go, pavement goes like this. If load releases like this. So this is also called as fatigue behavior. So due to this, what will happen? There will be the cracks. So for that, we also need to calculate the fatigue behavior of the cement concrete. Then the temperature that we have seen. In the rigid pavement, due to the difference in temperature of the top and bottom slab, the temperature stresses or the frictional stresses are developed. These temperature stresses are also known as warping stresses. Okay, where there is a variation in the temperature due to which the curling of the slab with the different temperature will be the different, hence the TDC and the BUC factors has to be considered. Okay, TDC means crack at the top, BUC means crack in the bottom. And what is mean by curl? Here they have shown the curling. Curling is what? The bending of the slab in the upward or the downward direction. Means what? This up and down bending of the slab, this is also known as curling of slab. Okay. This is also known as curling of slab. Then the next term is the precipitation. Precipitation from the rain and snow affects the quantity of surface water infiltrates into the subgrade and the depth of the groundwater table. Poor drainage may be lack and the shear strength, pumping, loss of support. Okay, whenever there will be the precipitation of the snow or the rain will be there, then at that time what will happen if the drainage is not good provided on the road, there will be the leakage into the road. There will be the penetration of the water into the road. Okay, there will be the infiltration in the road. Then due to this, what will happen? The whatever the strength of that road will be there, that will be affected due to this. Okay, if there is the infiltration of the raw water into the road, what will happen? The strength will be affected. Okay, so also we need to understand the how much load, uh, how much the water precipitation is there in that area. If we need to provide the road such that there will not be any infiltration of the water into the road. Material characteristics also we need to understand, because whenever we are designing anything by the any kind of material, we first need to understand the characteristics of that particular material before designing. Okay, if that material is good, then ultimately the structure will be good. If the material is poor, ultimately the structure will be poor. Okay, so we need to first understand the material characteristics in the road. What are the materials that are to be characterized or need to be understand? First is the soil, then the aggregates, then the bitumen, if there is concrete road, concrete. Okay, so these materials we need to understand. In the concrete, then again, cement, fine aggregate, porous aggregate, that we need to understand the characteristics of that particular material and their roles into the pavement design. Then the next design type is the rigid pavement design. Okay, the next particular thing is the rigid pavement design. So only 5 minutes are remain. This is the new part of the topic. So we will start this rigid government design into the next lecture. Okay. As this is the new part of this topic, we will start this part with the fresh mode into the new lecture. So we will stop here only. You can mark your attendance to the chat box. Then you can leave.